Hey, what's up? It is E. Davis, and we are coming to you live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I am the CEO of Writer's Block Publishing, where we encourage authors to get published and to become independent writers. You can find us on our social media sites, Instagram, Writer's Block Publishing, LLC, Twitter, Block Publish, Facebook, Writer's Block Publishing, LLC, and of course the website writersblockpublishing.llc.com, and you can always email me at writersblockpub@yahoo.com. So today is February 2nd, and we are celebrating Black History Month all month long. So every Saturday we are going to be discussing some awesome Black writers. We're going to be talking about four each week. So the first week is we're going to talk about Maya Angelou, James Baldwin, Octavia Butler, and W.E.B. Du Bois. So first of all, these writers are, we all know, or if you don't know them, I hope you will want to get to know them. And from my experience, I noticed quite a few, but they are phenomenal writers. Their imagination and creativity is beyond, and some of them, their work is, I will say, is um, their true story, which is amazing because considering where they came from and who they end up becoming, um, it's humbling. And their determination allowed them to rise against the stereotype. They allowed them to overcome poverty, to become historic. So first on the list is Dr. Maya Angelou. So we all know about her phenomenal woman. It was a poem that was done. You know what? Let me start over. Phenomenal Woman. It was performed by Janet Jackson in the movie Poetic Justice. As a matter of fact, all of the poetry that Janet Jackson did in that movie are by Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou even performed in some movies. If you think of the Tyler Perry phenomenon, she was in Medea's Family Reunion. She also had a cameo in Poetic Justice. She did the poem for President Bill Clinton inauguration, and she has been considered, or she is considered to be Oprah's mentor. She was that spiritual advisor to Oprah during Oprah's time on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I watched a beautiful, beautiful documentary about her on Netflix, and I was moved to tears at how humble she is. She's such a beautiful soul. So I have some notes here, so bear with me if I keep looking away. She was born in Louisiana, St. Louis, Missouri, 1928. I like to humbly represent St. Louis. I have family there. My grandmother's sisters, my great aunts, are from St. Louis. I remember, I think I was 8 years old when I visited St. Louis in the Ark, if I'm saying it right. Maya Angelou is often referred to as a spokesman for the African American and women throughout her works. Her gift of words connected all people who were committed to raising the moral standards of living in the United States. And she was influenced by Black authors such as Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Paul Lombard. Her love of language developed as a young age, and we all know her most famous work is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. If you have not read it, I recommend that you do because it's such a beautiful book. It is beginning of all of her autobiographies. She has 7, and they're all in the series. She is a prolific poet. Her words often depict Black beauty, the strength of a woman, and the human spirit, and the demand for social injustice. So she was also an activist. I'm a little biased to Maya because she is an Aries like me. And her first collection of poems, Just Give Me a Cool Drink of Water, For I Die, was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize in 1972. The same year, she became the first Black woman to have a screenplay produced. Writing for adults and children, Dr. Angelou was one of several African American women at the time who explored the Black female autobiography, autobiographical, if I'm saying it right, tradition. So we salute you, Dr. Angelou. Next on the list is a friend of Dr. Angelou, and I have yet to read his book, so that's going to be my goal by the end of this year, and is Mr. James Baldwin. If Beale Street Can Talk, the movie that recently came out and was nominated for numerous Golden Globes, was based off of his book. And not Dr. James Baldwin, from my understanding, is another prolific writer. Though he spent most of his life living abroad to escape the racial prejudice in the United States, James Baldwin is the quintessential American writer. So that's very deep. Best known for his reflection of his own experience as an openly gay Black man in white America, his novels, essays, and poetry make him a social critic who shared the pain and struggle of Black Americans. Mr. Baldwin was born in 1924 in Harlem. Baldwin caught the attention of fellow writer Richard Wright, who helped him secure a grant in order to support himself as a writer. So sometimes when you want to write, of course, money is a factor. But in those days, they didn't really have the mindset of creative writing. The mindset of doing it yourself, become independent. You had to get established by a major publishing company that would fund you that money. But looks like James Baldwin had his own way of doing things. He went to live in Paris at the age of 24 and went on to write Go Tell It on the Mountain, which was published in 1953. A novel unlike anything written to date, speaking with passions and depth about the Black struggle in America, it has become an American classic. Baldwin would continue to write novels, poetry, and essays with a refreshing, unique perspective for the rest of his life. In 1956, Giovanni's Room raised the issue of race and homosexuality at that time when it was taboo. And during the Civil Rights Movement, he published 3 of the most important collections of essay Notes of a Native Son, that was published in 1955. Nobody Knows My Name, that was done in 1961. And The Fire Next Time in 1963. So I did my research on James Baldwin, and he is going to be one of my must-reads over the summer. And next we have Miss Octavia Butler. In a genre known for traditionally white and male, Miss Butler broke new grounds in science fiction. And as an African-American woman, born in California in 1947, Miss Butler was an avid reader, despite having dyslexia, and writing and a storyteller by the age of 4. So she already had her imagination. And she began writing at 10. Drawn to science fiction because of the boundless possibilities of imagination, she was quickly frustrated by the lack of people she could identify with, so she decided to create her own. So my assumption in that reading was because there weren't enough Blacks in the science fiction realm, so she decided to do it herself. Butler took the science fiction world by storm. Her novels featured race, sex, power, and humanity, and were highly praised and attracted audience beyond their genre. They would eventually be translated into multiple languages and sell more than 1 million copies. One of her best-known novels, Kindred, was published in 1979, tells the story of a Black woman who must travel back in time in order to save her own life by saving a white slave-holding ancestor. Wow, that's heavy. When you think about that, that's really heavy. Over her career, she won 2 Hugo Awards, 2 Nebula Awards, and in 1995, she became the first science fiction writer to win the MacArthur Fellowship. The self-described outsider's legacy inspired future generations of women, including Belle Jean Jeffries, Nadie, if I'm saying it right, Okafor, and the singer Janelle Monáe. So I love Janelle Monáe. Her first album, I don't have to say anything about that. Those who know me know. And last but not least, we are going to be discussing W.E.B. Du Bois. As an activist, Pan-Africanist, sociologist, educator, historian, and prolific writer, W.E.B. Du Bois was the most influential African American thought leaders of the 20th century. Growing up in Massachusetts as a part of the Black elite, it wasn't until Fisk University in Tennessee that the issues of racial prejudice came to his attention. He studied Black America and wrote some of the earliest scientific studies on Black communities, calling for an end to racism. His thesis, The Suppression of the African Slave Trade to the United States of America in 1638 through 1870, remains an authoritative work on the subject. The historic lynching of Sam Hose in 1899 prompted Du Bois to begin writing the souls of Black folk. So he was motivated. And remember, in one of my live feeds of talking about the creative writing, some of the motivations come from real life situations. Calling for organized action and an end of segregation and Jim Crow laws and political disenfranchisement in America, the prophetic work was not well received at the time of its publication. Du Bois eventually went to help to establish the NAACP, and that stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, where he became the editor of the newspaper The Crisis and well-known spokesman for the cause. Many of his essays from The Crisis were published in book form under the title The Emerging Thought of W.E.B. Du Bois, Essays and Editorials from the Crisis. In addition to The Souls of Black Folk and the articles and editorials for The Crisis, Du Bois wrote several books. While these attract less attention than his scholarly works, the also focused on the Black race, covering the topics of I'm trying to pronounce this word, miscegenation, if that's not correct, and economic disparities in the South. Most respected for his scholarly writings, Du Bois' concepts such as psychology of colonization, explored by Frantz Fanon, continued being researched years later. So, just to name a few, these writers definitely wrote about what was going on in society during that time, during the oppression of the African American people. They wrote stories from a fiction standpoint to bring awareness of the injustice that was going on in society. They also wrote essays, so these are just their thoughts. And these are technically, basically blogs that brought awareness to the situation. Also helped motivating what eventually became the civil rights movement. Now, we do know that Rosa Parks is a mother of the civil rights movement, and Dr. King, Martin Luther King Jr., was the one that led the force for that movement. But a lot of these writings definitely brought awareness to what was wrong, racially wrong in society. And just to name some of the issues is something that we all need to take aware, especially in recent events within the past few years, such as the Black Lives Matter movement. Of course, we know that all lives matter: white lives, black lives, brown lives, yellow lives, women and men, children. But the situation that led up to that movement was the horrific killings of a lot of Black Americans for no reason. And even the interrogation where we joke, even though we joke about the names, but there's Permanent Patty and Barbecue Becky and things like that. So if you don't really think about it, it's kind of shame on your end. And of course, we don't want to walk around in fear of our lives. And we want to love all mankind because, again, all lives matter. I will hashtag that. Hashtag all lives matter. But please just take time to be aware that there are still racism and injustice in America. And if you can do something to stop it, it takes one person at a time. So if you can love someone and treat someone who is a different race or gender, just treat them how you want to be treated. So next week, I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about Zora Neale Hurston, Alex Haley, Dorothy West, and Richard Ellis. I am looking forward to speaking about these individuals. I've read, um, let me see, 3 out of the 4 books. And also, we are going to be celebrating Toni Morrison, okay? And I'm so excited because she is my all-time favorite writer. I have every single one of her books. I'm looking around my office to see if I have one at hand. But we are going to be celebrating her birthday, which is February the 18th. And we are going to be also reading her book, Love, because February is the month of love. Here's my little heart. So if you'd like to join me with reading Love, please get the book and email me, talk to me. Tell me what your thoughts are. Also, you can visit me on my blog through WordPress at writersblock1984, wordpress.com, I think it is. Or you can follow me at Davis Dream, again on WordPress. I'd definitely like to hear from you. I will always communicate back with you. All right, everyone, enjoy your Saturday. Have a